Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. Jake Delhomme, Steve Smith, and you know what we're talking about. We're talking about X-Clown, the greatest play in Panthers history, in what is arguably the greatest game in Panthers history. Guys, let me just start with this. Where was your mindset at going into this double overtime, Steve?
Mindset was really, let's just try to get out of here. Let's try to get this win. It was a lot of back and forth going on. It was a lot of questionable decisions as players. Now as an analyst, I look at that. It was a lot of questionable decisions by both coaching staffs on mistakes that were made, but also it was a lot of strategic moves being made as well that really just kind of showed the gravity of what was at stake for both of us, the Carolina Panthers, and now they are now the Los Angeles Rams, but at that time they were the St. Louis Rams. And a little fun fact is, I believe Jake's beautiful family and my beautiful family, previous owner Mr. Richardson, had chartered a big old American Airlines flight that went down to St. Louis. So there was a lot of training staff, players' families that went down there. So it was just as much Panthers fans in the state of Missouri and in the city of St. Louis than we have ever seen before. And to be able to do that in front of that hometown crowd for them, but also our hometown fans that traveled through Mr. Richardson was pretty outstanding and pretty cool.
Yeah, I do remember that, and he brought it up. I actually forgot. And my wife stayed back because our youngest, Lauren, was 13 months old, and we didn't have a nanny or a sitter. She stayed back, but my mom, my dad, my brother, an aunt and uncle, and my father-in-law drove up from Louisiana. It was like a 9-10 hour drive, so they were there. But to be honest, going into double overtime, we were more furious as a team. We had control of that football game. We had control of the game. I think we made a field goal like to win it in overtime or something like that. And then they had a timeout called, and then John re-kicked it and hit the upright. It was just we had the game and we let it slip away. And then lo and behold, we're not thinking this is going to be a touchdown pass. At least in my mind, it's a 3rd and long. Let's get a first down and we'll go from there. And they played the coverage, we thought, and we had completed it earlier in the game. And Steve and I could not complete it in practice that week. We saw it on film.
Be accurate. Steve was running a route correctly. You did not complete the pass to me because it's still green grass. It was a 15-yard route. I did my thing, which is beat the corner. Mm-hmm. Now your job, according to your pay, is to throw it to the handsome guy, number 89. Now, I don't know what happened, right? Maybe I was fast as lightning, right? Because you couldn't do it, but I'm just saying, I did my job.
All right, Jake, well, what happened for you in practice then?
I went according to how it was drawn up and what we looked at on film, and Steve went according to how it looked at in Steve Smith's mind. And Steve ran it. And the reason he was going to run it how it went in his mind is because we were stealing the play from the Cincinnati Bengals.
No, it's not stealing. It's not stealing. Don't incriminate us. Okay. Maybe you stole it. I just was running my assignment.
So Chad Johnson was running the route and Carson Palmer was throwing it to him versus St. Louis. And that's the coverage they were going to play this Tampa 2 coverage, especially in 3rd and long. And Correct. Chad would take it high. Carson would lay it up. So we were running in practice. Steve would beat whoever he was going against, and he would go and I would throw it up and Steve would run it flat. And then I would throw it up and Steve would run it flat. And we would see how
I'm consistent in what I'm doing.
Same as me. So like literally couldn't complete it. Could not complete it.
Okay. I was open though.
We were like, you just so aggravated. And I remember Dan was very stoic at practice. He used to kind of stand behind. Mike McCoy was the one, and Mike was unbelievable for Steve and I. I was kind of like our best friend and coach. He was the buffer for both.
He was like our marriage counselor.
Exactly.
Oh, so you guys would both go to him, and you were like,
Jake would complain to Mike all the time about me, as if he was the perfect child, right? Like a real relationship. Oh, it's always the husband's fault. So that would mean, obviously, if I'm the husband, that would mean that Jake is not the husband. So.
Well, Mike had a relationship with Steve that was very deep beyond football. And, Mike could tell Steve, like, hey, listen, hope you won another one of those great routes like you did last week. And Mike would turn and walk away. And Steve would get so mad. What are you talking about? And Mike just had a way of just throwing these subtle jabs at Steve. And he knew he could get under his skin. And so it just worked. So we couldn't complete it in practice. And Dan Henning looked at Mike and said, don't run it again. They'll get it in the game. Don't worry about it. And that was it. Like, we didn't run it again the rest of the week. I think we tried maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever. And then the game, he called it earlier in the game. We completed for a first down, and we changed sides of the field. Start first play of double overtime. It's loud in the Edward Jones Dome, maybe, I believe it was. And
yeah.
We ran the play. And Jason Sehorn was the safety, and Sehorn he was toward the end. I mean, he was a great athlete, and he was toward the end, and
let's watch it right now. I want to hear you guys talk it through.
This will be my second time ever seeing it.
That's amazing. That's crazy. You've only seen it one time, and you lived it.
Yes,
once, obviously.
Yeah. So he's throwing it right there. So when I actually catch the ball with the little jump, I'm assuming that Jason Sehorn is close to the hash marks, so I catch it to really protect myself from the blow of getting the ball. Because we always had this great thing was I would tell him, don't leave me too much, but if you throw it close enough to my chest, I can always protect myself. And so he did that good, and Jake's right there, not looking the safety off like he's supposed to, but,
I just looked the safety off, and I pumped to the right because I wasn't worried about Sehorn because you were going to cross his face.
I got you. See how defensive he gets?
I can still see that battle between the two of you all these years later.
Look how light you were. You were light.
What do you mean light?
Like what were you weighing there? 185, 180? You're light.
No, it was about 192.
I don't know. Listen, this is January. This is the end of the season.
Yep.
So we dropped some weight. Look at that pocket. I mean, it's a dream pocket. And just throw it and not thinking touchdown. Thinking, okay, boom, we got the first down. And then, listen, where Steve was different than any other receiver that played, when he came out of a break, you can't anticipate where normal people are going to be. You have to anticipate about 2 to 3 yards more. He has an explosion out of a break. And when I first got to Carolina, I couldn't hit him on the in route.
He hated. He would get so upset because, especially if we ran, I would run a route, which I would call rest in peace, Coach William Richardson, who Coach Williams would get on me so much. And he had this whole terminology that really was only towards me. Quit running around the house, right? And so when the deeper the route went, the faster I would build up because I ran hurdles in high school. And so obviously I'm 5'9", and I'm not tall, but I had a long stride. And so as we got deeper into the route, my stride was shortened up, which means I became faster. So if we hit an 18-yard route, first of all, I was coached, and Jake loved me to go 17 yards, break down a little bit, and come inside. Now, I would run, well, the lie was I ran 16 yards, but the truth is I would probably run 14 yards, and I would Cadillac turn the rest of the 4.5 to 5 yards. And by the time Jake would throw it, when I'm at the numbers, I would be pretty much at the hash by the time it's sped up. So we had to really work on our routes together because Jake came from a system of precision and being precise. I came from a neighborhood of hey, you just run for the cops, get out how you can get out. So it really had no distance or no depth. You just get away. Most people you hop the fence in two. Hey, I give you 1.5. Right? That I gain an extra step.
How long did it take you guys to develop that precision together?
Well, sure, we still developing it right now.
We grew together. When we went to camp, Rodney was the starter, and we all split reps. So I didn't really go with Steve much. And then the first game, I get thrown in at half, and I throw a touchdown pass to him in the fourth quarter. I throw a back shoulder fade, and it's something we never worked on, but I was always comfortable doing that. If somebody's covered, I could throw a back shoulder fade, and he can adjust like no other, and we just developed that chemistry. But Steve, Rodney Pete, and Chris Winkie, early on during OTAs and minicamp, I would throw the in route to Steve, and he'd catch it here instead of catching it, a yard in front of his chest. And I would look back at him, and they would just laugh, and they say, "There's no one like him. There's no one like him. Wherever you think it's going to be, you better go 2 or 3 more yards in your mind. You got to anticipate 2 to 3 more yards." And nobody else is like that. And you just kind of – any quarterback who ever got along the way, from a Josh McCown, David Carr, A.J. Feely, any of them that would come there, first time Steve would run in, they would look like, "Oh, my gosh." I said, "Yeah, it's different. There's an explosion like no other."
When did that start to set in that I think of Steve Smith as a fan. I'm like, oh, this is Steve Smith. When did it start to set in for you, Jake, that he was an all-time great?
Well, I think you saw it. I mean, listen, this guy, and he won't like me saying this, in 2001, they drafted him in the 3rd round, and I was with the Saints. And all I remember, our special teams coach, Bobby April, longtime NFL special teams coach, I remember him standing up and saying, "Guys, this team is not very good." And the Panthers won 1 game that year.
Yeah,
he said, terrible. "They have the best returner in football. We cannot give him an inch." He said, "He is a freak. He is a freak show. I'm just telling you." And so you got to watch him, and Steve makes the Pro Bowl as a rookie, as a returner. And I've been on record saying this. If Steve would have been pigeonholed only as a returner, he would be the greatest returner in the history of the NFL, and it wouldn't be close. The less people we blocked in 2003 when he was still returning kicks, the better he was. I mean, it's very simple. But then that 2003 season was his 3rd year, and he was still raw somewhat at the receiver position, and I was very raw. I was raw at the quarterback position, and we kind of grew together, and we started doing the little things, the back shoulders, the kind of eye contact and things like that. And we just kind of went from there.
One of the things that was very unique with Jake and even myself is we were such a young team with a head coach who really believed in running the ball a lot. And so that made us understand that the opportunities that we did have, we had to make the best of them. And being also a very impatient football player for myself and always playing special teams, which you always I remember Scotty O'Brien used to always say, nothing good ever happens on a re-kick. So he would always say, you got to make the best of your first opportunity, because in this league, a lot of people don't get second chances. And so I always remember that. So I always played and practiced like, well, this is on our only opportunity. And that's the way I was kind of raised in this league, because when I got here to Carolina, I mean, you got to remember, Reggie White was maybe 2 years removed from retirement. Kevin Green was on this team, Doug Evans, Jimmy Hitchcock. So I was in the locker room with a lot of older players. And that older player was just like the old school, the way he was raised, which is it takes a village to raise a child, which was rookies are to be seen, not heard. And so you had to earn your voice. And the only way you can earn your voice is by making plays. So that's what I felt I had to do. That's what I was expected to do. And so that kind of just stayed with me, even to the fact, I know we're with the Carolina Panthers, but even to the point of when I went to Baltimore, I started in the back of the line because I felt like I was a rookie all over again. So I had to earn my voice, even though I was entering into my 14th season. And there were guys like Jake, Sean Gilbert, right, Doug Evans, who were older players that instill things in you that just because you're making money or playing on the football team, those were nuggets in which those men who were 15, 12, 13 years in the league, they were there for a reason. And I was unique, and I had the ability to learn from them. I mean, Moose was, I believe, in his 8th year. We had Carl Hankton, who was like a 40-year-old in his 4th year, right? So it was a lot of great players that I learned from. And then I had Jake, who was a seasoned veteran player, but was young at his position, who had been taught by other older players. So it just had to work out, I felt like, or that was my only shot.
Right.
That's just absolutely fascinating to get the behind the scenes of your development, Steve. This kills me because I could listen to this all night, but in the interest of time, we have to leave this here. But what a dream for me and for all Panthers fans to get to hear you two break down not just X-Clown, but just everything that led up to it. So thank you both. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun going down memory lane.
Me and Jake
hopefully
still
you
talk.
watch more than twice. Hopefully you watch the play a little bit more.
I don't watch myself. I don't. I cannot. I critique myself way too much.
Will you not? Are you coming back to play? Are you coming back to play in the NFL or no? Or then watch yourself play. Or then watch your games. It's okay to do that now.
No, because then I don't have time to golf and do nothing else.
Well, look, in the interest of all of that, I got to say, I'm glad that we got Steve to watch it a second time. I mean, that's considering he doesn't watch it at all. I feel fortunate we got to watch it with him tonight.
Even right now, if I were to watch this or I DVR it, I'm looking at that ugly, sloppy Nike golf shirt you have on right now.
Oh,
Is that fuchsia or pink? What color is that?
It looks good. That's all that matters.
All right, that is the place to leave it. You guys are the best.